Jordan Peterson is perhaps one of the most influential psychologists of our time. He developed a following from his engaging university lectures and extreme notoriety for his public opposition of gender pronouns. Jordan's views and stances are largely misrepresented, and yet he still stands his ground during debates, expressing his viewpoints without shame. In this video, you will learn how to stand up for yourself, even when it seems like the world is against you. On the surface, a conversation might seem simple and natural, yet they are perhaps one of the most complex and dynamic things that we engage in. They seem simple because their ability is innate and fundamentally human. At the core, over 100 billion bits of data per second of information are being processed by our brains. A far better way to look at social interactions is through models, for example, frames. Every conversation is a battle for the frame. Whoever holds the frame leads the conversation. When you get pulled over for speeding by a cop and you come up with excuses as to why you were doing it, as he gives you the ticket, he holds the frame. When you're tutoring your little brother on basic mathematics and he's complaining, you hold the frame. Think of holding the frame as being the leader or the alpha. When standing up for yourself, do not allow them to take the frame from you. People would typically try to steal the frame by speaking over you or misrepresenting what you're saying to allow the argument to follow their narrative. People will also try to evoke a reaction from you, often through straw man arguments and ad hominem attacks. The person who reacts in the social interaction the least is the one who owns the frame. Watch this clip.
Important to develop yourself.
But does it bother you that your audience is predominantly male?
I mean, it's no more divisive than the fact that YouTube is primarily male and Tumblr is primarily
that's pretty divisive,
female.
Isn't it?
Tumblr is primarily female.
But you're just saying that's the way it is.
Well, there's plenty of women that are watching my lectures and coming to my talks and buying my books. It's just that the majority of them happen to be men.
What's in it for the women, though?
Or do you want someone to contend with that's going to help you and that
So
you
you're
can
saying
rely on?
Women have some sort of duty to sort of help fix the crisis of masculinity?
Kathy Newman repeatedly tries to steal the frame. Whenever she senses that Jordan is winning, she tries to interrupt him and move on to another topic. Her approach is forceful and comes off as immature. Jordan, on the other hand, does not raise his voice often or steal the frame by force. He does it very differently. He takes the frame with logical deduction.
Why should your right to freedom of speech trump a trans person's right not to be offended?
Because in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. I mean, look at the conversation we're having right now. You know, like you're certainly willing to risk offending me in the pursuit of truth. Why should you have the right to do that? It's been rather uncomfortable.
Well, I'm very glad I put you on the spot.
Dismantling the arguments with evidence and reason. His frame control comes from a position of power. People will often try to reclaim their frame from you by being loud and obnoxious.
So let's say, here, let's get precise about this, okay?
Was that very individual of you?
Let's get precise about this, okay?
Precise.
To what degree is my present level of attainment or achievement a consequence of my white privilege? And I don't mean sort of. I mean, do you mean 5%? Do you mean 15%? Do you mean 25%? Do you mean 75%? And what do you propose I do about it? How about a tax? How about a tax that's like specialized for me so that I can account for my damn privilege, so that I can stop hearing about it? Then how would my worthy opponents precisely define when the left that they stand for has gone too far? You didn't like equity, equality of outcome. I think that's a great marker. But if you have a better suggestion and won't sidestep the question, so let's figure out how I can dispense with my white privilege, and so that you can tell me when the left has gone too far, since they clearly can.
Often, asking them a question that dismantles their argument is an effective strategy for reclaiming the frame. The philosopher Socrates had a similar approach, using questions to get his opponents to admit to simple truths, one after the other, eventually surmounting enough evidence from that to support his arguments. This is called the Socratic method, and it will give you the power you need to keep the frame. Sometimes we don't stand up for ourselves because we are afraid to offend. We would rather stay safe and in the shadows. Here's what Jordan had to say when asked about standing up for yourself.
Systems go terribly out of control when people don't stop them when they're going mildly out of control. You know, and you might say, I should just keep my goddamn head down and shut up. It's like, maybe you should. Like, that's not bad advice. You know, you don't want to make unnecessary enemies, and you don't need any more trouble than you need. But you got to ask yourself on a day-to-day basis, what makes you think you're not selling your soul?
History is filled with stories of disasters that have happened due to people being unwilling to offend. Many of the greatest tragedies and injustices have all resulted from groupthink ideologies and other social pressures. Change is often created by those who are willing to go against the evolutionary pressure of opposing the herd, those willing to offend. If you have an opinion which you strongly believe in, it is your right as a human to express it. Repressing this is a betrayal to yourself and ultimately mankind. This is why Jordan Peterson is so adamant about his viewpoints, even if they have the potential to offend millions. Your battle will likely be easier, offending perhaps just your workmates, your boss, or your friends. As long as you're not disrespecting the other human being, but you are instead expressing your viewpoint, you should not be afraid to offend. It's people like you that stop the chaos from rising.
That's pure narcissism at work, by the way. You know, to hijack an event like this that other people put time and effort into, and to use their civility of the crowd and the civility of the organizers as an excuse to blatantly yell out your ill-informed opinions is no way to conduct a civil dialogue. It's absolutely appalling. The people who do that should be embarrassed.
Sometimes people will try to disrespect you. They do this because they think they can get away with it. Do not stand for disrespect and call people out when necessary. Remember, people are allowed to disagree with you. However, when it gets to a point of disrespect, you need to address it. Failure to address it will leave you as a victim to their frame, and they will continue their behavior. People will only get away with as much as you allow them to. We have all met an individual who commanded respect. These people often have an aura about them. You know that you can't attack them and get away with it. Then on the other side of the spectrum are people who are constantly getting pushed around and bullied by others. This happens to them because they're easy victims. They have no inertia and will crumble when pushed. You can't allow this to be you, especially when you're standing up for yourself. You must respect yourself enough to not allow people to step on you. Only then will your voice be heard.
I think I've made my position on that clear already.
Well, perhaps not to our audience at home who are just being introduced to this. Would you use alternate pronouns? And why not?
Because I don't believe that other people have the right to determine what language I use, especially when it's backed by punitive legislation. And when the words that are being required are the constructions, they're artificial constructions of people I regard as radical ideologues whose viewpoint I do not share.
There is nothing more intimidating than engaging in a debate with someone who understands your language better than you. We all can speak English, however, at different levels. Most people speak at the conversational level and never push themselves to broaden their vocabulary or learn how to articulate themselves better. Mastery over language is important because it gives you more tools to work with during discussions. It allows you to approach your argument from a range of different angles, making it more explosive and more impactful. This is part of the reason why Jordan Peterson is so devastating in debates. He simply knows the language better than you.
I can hold my own verbally, and I'm rarely in a situation where I feel like I'm at a disadvantage verbally.
He can use more descriptive imagery and powerful metaphors to cement his position. This is no surprise because Jordan is an academic, holding a PhD in clinical psychology and also having studied classical literature. His father was a teacher and mother a librarian, so we can assume that he has put in over 10,000 hours into reading and mastering the language. If you want to stand up for yourself, you need to become a better communicator. Start by making a more conscious effort to read and expand your understanding of the English language. Read things that push you out of your comfort zone, and you'll begin to grow. Jordan has studied some of the greatest minds, Nietzsche, Jung, Dostoevsky, to name a few. Through this, he has also absorbed some of their intellectual prowess. You can too, just pick up a good book. We can all learn a lot about standing up for ourselves by analyzing Jordan Peterson. First, learn about frames and how to maintain them in conversations. Don't be afraid to offend. Call out people when they disrespect you. And of course, master your language. Do these and I promise you, you'll be one step closer to living and dying well. Thanks for watching the video. I appreciate you. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell notifications so we can see more of each other. Until next time.